Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Month is a time to celebrate and highlight our globally diverse community. Join us in recognizing underrepresented leaders from all over the world and listen to these incredible journeys and the new heights they will reach next. DEI Month is presented by Silicon Valley Bank.
Hi, my name is Mara Anyanka, and I'm a corporate development manager based out of the New York office at Silicon Valley Bank. And we are so pleased to sponsor Startup Grind's DE&I Month. At Silicon Valley Bank, we bank the world's most innovative companies and their investors. And for nearly 40 years, we've been focused on serving the needs of founders, entrepreneurs, and high-growth technology and life sciences companies. We are deeply committed to supporting initiatives and organizations that accelerate diversity, like Startup Grind, Latinx VC, and Zane Venture Fund. Our own program, Access to Innovation, is focused on building a more diverse, equitable, and accessible innovation economy for all. We really aim to transform lives by building educational, employment, and funding pathways for emerging talent, expanding connections and funding for Black, Latinx, and female founders and investors, and working toward gender parity and diversity in leadership. To learn more about Silicon Valley Bank and the work that we do at Access to Innovation, please visit svb.com and sign up for our newsletter.
Officially welcome to the first event in October for Startup Grind Grand Rapids. I am Megan Norton, the newly appointed co-director, and I'm excited to be here with Jessa Challa, our CEO and speaker for the evening from Mallowfields. I'm really happy to have you. Watch and stay, for those of you that are online and watching, hang out until the end. We have a couple of videos, and I definitely want to thank our sponsors for joining the month of October, where we are promoting DE&I as our theme. So with that, I would love to get going. And as per normal, if you are off mute, just be careful. The way that we're going to run this is we'll do the interview for about 25-30 minutes, and then we'll take the questions that are in chat. And so listen along. Definitely feel free to drop those questions into the chat window here in the bevy space on the right rail. We'll go through those at the end. And then, of course, if you want to, we'd love to see your face on screen. Otherwise, you are happy to stay off of screen. It's okay. I'm going to you right from one of our partners here in Grand Rapids, Grow Hub GR, where, like I said at the start of this, they are currently hosting the Art Exchange Grand Rapids, where they have a event, United in Purpose. So we're really happy to be partnering there and giving them a spot as well. Check out links in the chat as at the end of this evening for links to our local sponsors. And another spot that we have is that nationally and globally, Startup Grind is actually sponsoring a diversity and equity inclusion event on the 26th of October, and I will be placing that link here in chat. And the global sponsors for that event are actually outside of these walls of and boundaries of Grand Rapids. It's Silicon Valley Bank, Comcast, NBC Universal, and Lyft Labs. And so there'll be a spot at the end of this to watch. So with that, I'm really pleased to introduce to you someone I consider also a friend, Jessa Challa. Jessa, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what Mallowfields is, and take it from there?
I'm Jessa Challa. I am a software engineer and the CEO of Mallowfields. We are a minority and woman-owned software company in Grand Rapids. I was born and raised in Grand Rapids and live in West Michigan. My background is that I went to Aquinas College. I got a degree in geography. I worked as a GIS technician, stands for Geographic Information Systems, where I was working at a local government agency making maps on the computer. I wanted to move beyond that, but also continue to work with big data. So I invested in myself, put myself through a coding boot camp through Grand Circus. And then a little bit after that, I got a job as a software engineer at Mallowfields, where I currently am at. You're muted.
We now know I am not a computer. So exciting. I am also not tech, but I'm also very techy. Tell us a little bit about Mallowfields. Now, I encountered them from that same tech training company and had the luxury of interviewing, I think, your founder a couple years ago. What is Mallowfields and what do they do?
Yeah, so Mallowfields was founded in 2018. We have 5 founding members. It's Kendall Joseph, Joshua Honig, Anel Gell, and Carla Seiler Madalena, and myself. We are a software company, and our structure is a corporate republic, and that means that everyone votes. So when it comes to title changes or salary changes, adopting policies, it means that everyone in the company votes on that kind of stuff. So everything's transparent, and that's really nice being in a company where my voice is heard. And I think it's especially important early on in a company for those involved to have their voices be heard. My role at Mallowfields started out as mainly being the front end development leader. We were working first as an agency, so we were making a product for a client, and I was building all of the front end, working really close with that company's a designer, and then just creating that front end for them. With just like gaining more leadership roles in the company, I first started out as the community engagement person, where I led as the community connector. I would seek out and develop relationships with individuals and organizations around Grand Rapids. And then also inside of Mallowfields, I led the inclusion and well-being efforts. I established standards of daily feeling check-ins, like in the mornings during our stand-ups. Every morning we do a feelings check-in and say what kind of work we were going to be doing during the day. And then I created a wellness survey that we take once a year, and it's anonymous, so people can kind of talk about how well their sleep is going, relationships, how the gratitude, just overall well-being. And then based on those answers, I do research to find resources for them. And those helpful resources are, again, about sleep, meditation, relationships, gratitude, and overall well-being. And then those resources are, where everyone in our company has access to them, just in case they want to, use one of those resources. And then just overall, I think that it's so important for me to establish a foundation for DEI in this newly establishing and growing firm. I make time to put myself through leadership training. I did a program last fall called Community Catalyst, and now I'm in the Transformational Leaders program. And both of those is teach. So the first one, Community Catalyst, was centered around equity-centered design. That's what I learned about there. And then with the Transformational Leaders program, that just started, and it's just a community that's going to help each other grow. We have readings and homework to do, and we're going to support each other at events and things like that. And then the last thing is that I establish policies. I write them up for a company, like I wrote our employee handbook.
So when you talk about equity and design, I think I just saw you're actually reading a book about that in terms of your transformational leadership. Do you want to talk to what that book title was? Oh, it's right there. There you go. What are you just diving in?
It up. It's called Emergent Strategy. It's by Adrienne Murray Brown. It's a really awesome book, and it's talking about how all people are a little piece of this big system, and that even though we might be a small piece, that our actions affect the bigger picture of things. So as we start choosing to be intentional about, small things like where we shop, or the policies we add to our companies, or just like how we choose to, show gratitude. Those things are so important with improving our communities and our relationships with those around us.
Is there a highlight of how I could do that? Is there an example of how we could be out in our community in that way? And I know I'm maybe adding in an extra question here and taking you off guard, but I would love to see, as for the listeners that are here online, what an example of that is when it's regarding like a startup business and how we are trying to do business in our community to provide impact. Let me leave it at that. Any examples as someone that's walking the street?
Yeah, I think that one way to intentionally do positive work for your community is kind of looking at what is the standard quo. And one way to do that is kind of looking at the demographics of the area or your company and what seems to be comfortable there, and choosing to make space for those who don't normally aren't able to show up in those spaces. So just, things like events that show off different cultural musics and foods, that just brings neighborhoods together and can create community in that way so that everyone is celebrating together.
That's great. And I don't know if anyone can hear in the background, there is a muffled sound because I'm literally immersing myself right now in a very event. So I'm glad to attach to that very thing and live that purpose. And that is a really good way of creating an example. So I want to come back to, and if we can go into that, the aspect of exactly what, Mallowfields is delivering, right? You said GIS, am I going to get this right? Graphical Information Systems.
Geographic Information Systems.
Okay.
Yeah. Geo. But yeah, so that relates to our first product that we're creating, which is called Junction. So we, as a company, aim to create a suite of products, just like Microsoft has a suite of products. And the first one we are working on is called Junction. And the main goal of that is to help manage and automate work. So someone who's using the software could create a workflow on best practice of how to do a certain task or run a certain campaign. And this relates to mainly to not the nonprofits that we were working with to build this product. So if they had a fundraising event that went really well last year, to be able to be able to build out that workflow, and then two, being able to pull the data from that to see why that one went so much better than ones at different times of the year or ones in previous years. So the equity-centered design part of that is making sure that we are working with those who would be using our software. And that's why we are working with a handful of medium-sized nonprofits that are local to Grand Rapids to gain their insight through their feedback so that we can build this product for them. And once it's once we are done and have that first product built, we would be able to sell it to other nonprofits, but also small businesses, medium-sized businesses. But we want to make sure that it works for those small to medium-sized nonprofits first.
And when you say equity design, is that beyond ADA, beyond the American Disability Act, or is that more around how an app or a site is put together and how we navigate it, and then the information or the content that's provided? Am I getting at something there? Is that around that?
Yeah, I think it involves all of that. But the main idea behind equity-centered design is that those who are affected decide. And so we really want the voices of those who will be using this and who will be affected by this. We want to hear their voices and making sure that it works for them, and that we're building a product that isn't creating more harm, that it's actually doing the work that we want it to be doing.
So it's interesting when you are building a product, and you're coming into a company that's got a platform already built. And it's doing all of the inclusive things that we need. Can you talk about, sorry about that. Again, checking my time to make sure we're on time. That was that beeper. The question I have is, the work that you're doing for Mallowfields, and then you're pairing that with your community engagement and your leadership classes. What we notice and what we put in the title of the event is that you're recognized for that activity, and you're getting Mallowfields out there in that way. Talk to us a little bit about your the recent Epic Award that you're up for, and if you want, what got you there? What are the press that they're giving you? Maybe around even some of your the people in your space. So I guess the main question there, the first question there is, what's it like being nominated for the DEI Epic Award, and kind of what are your thoughts on it, and what got us that accolade, and what we got us to today. Talk to the process and what the event is, who are the people that are also in your category, and just a little bit of insight into this event. I think the event's coming up on, is that right?
It's on Monday night.
No? Okay. Sweet. I'm so excited.
Yeah, they said that they're going to announce the winners at the event. So it's going to be a total surprise. But yeah, so I was nominated for 2 categories: the DEI leadership. It's called DEI Champion Award. And then the other one is the Emerging Leaders Award. So crossing my fingers that I get at least one, but so the work I've been doing to like be considered for this is I'll talk about my work inside Mallowfields and then outside. So inside of Mallowfields over the past, year and a half, kind of got, 2020 and 2021 got smushed together. The first project was our Help Kent project that happened mid to late March of 2020 when COVID first started just blowing up and people were afraid to go out of their homes. And we created an interactive web map with some local nonprofits to have this interactive web map where people could find food access locations. A lot of them depended on if you were in a certain school district or if you had a student ID. Some of them were beyond that and were able to serve other populations like the elderly. So we wanted to create that interactive web map so that people had all of those resources that they could just look at right on their phone. The second thing inside of Mallowfields was my work towards becoming a B Corp. And that is really important to me. Being a B Corp certified is a certification of social and environmental performance. On their website, it says that the society's most challenging problems cannot be solved by government and nonprofits alone. The B Corp community works towards reduced inequity, lower levels of poverty, a healthier environment, strong communities, and the creation of more high quality jobs with dignity and purpose. And so we becoming B Corp certified, which we just got the okay this week. We just have to, file some more paperwork and then we'll be able to put B Corp certified on our website. It's just important to have that standard to live up to early on in our development. What else? So the last thing I think I kind of touched on earlier was the internal work for the company, policies and practices, the well-being surveys, and just developing the DEI policy and anti-racism policies. Outside of Mallowfields, I do a lot of community work. I do a free intro to coding workshop through Grand Circus. I get to do that once or twice a month, so that's really fun. I do the Transformational Leaders Program with the Urban Core Collective. I sit on the board of Equity PAC that has the mission to continually increase the number of equity-minded officials, policies, and practices in local communities in Michigan. I sit on the board of AIGA West Michigan as the Director of Community and Connection. My goal there is to develop accessible resources and knowledge sharing avenues, just so that more people have access to those design resources. And I believe that community connection is about members of the community sharing information and lifting each other up. The last thing that I did was a personal project. I kind of created a name, GIS Jess, and I created my first map, my first interactive map, that is the BIPOC-owned businesses map. You can find it on my website. It's just to help people in the greater Grand Rapids area find a new business locally owned by a minority in the area, and be able to, go to that business and be able to be intentional about where they're spending their money.
And I mean, for me, I'm so proud of that because as an extension of all of those things and the work that you're doing at Mallowfields here in West Michigan, for those of you that are listening in, and especially listening in after, A, this has gotten great press. B, it is something that I will Slack or chat into the channel, and then again watch the YouTube footnotes for this, because we'll put that link there along with the links to our sponsors that we mentioned at the start. And I'm so excited about that, because it's actually something that you can use. We're going into the holiday seasons here, and we're thinking about gifting and buying, and what better way than to pull up an app and use it to shop in an extraordinary and impactful way. So I'm really proud about that, especially, and it's got just a great ring to it. I mean, it goes very well off, and it has great marketing. So I'm going to go into the next curious thing that I wanted to find out about, is what inspired it. Tell us more about this project and what inspired you.
So I got inspiration from a lot of different places. There was just people around me who I felt like were actively trying to be intentional about where they're spending their money. They want to shop at local businesses. They want to support a BIPOC-owned business. And they, someone would ask me like, oh, I want to hire a plumber who's a minority-owned contracting business. Do you know of any? And off the top of my head, in some of those moments, I'm like, oh, I don't know one off the top of my head, but I wanted to be able to give that information. And so I created this map so that it is open to the community to add more data to it, so that they can share their own business or a business that they know of that they would suggest to someone else. And then in the map, you can filter by industry. So if you want to try a new restaurant, you can look at just restaurants. If you need an architecture firm, you can filter by architecture. What else? I guess just needing the resource for myself. I wanted to make something for myself and then share it with others so that they could use it as well. And even after I made it, I was contacted by the city of Grand Rapids, and they're like, we don't have a list like this. And I was like, well, I know it's not a complete list, but it's growing. So
again, for those of you that are listening out there, and just, I don't know if Mallowfields wants help, but for those listening in that are in that sort of venture space, or in that nonprofit space, or even in the space where they can't wait to get that platform, should we throw contact information into the chat so that they can reach out to you in the future to get an example of the GIS Jess app, and then the platform that Mallowfields is building? Sound like a plan?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, great. Let's keep going though, because I know I have a few more, curious questions. You mentioned that at least the city reached out to you about this application and this tool. And I know that the city and the chamber are all kind of involved and equally together. And you have, like you mentioned, 2 awards that you're up for next Monday. Do you want to talk about the other local talent that's kind of in your category, and maybe give them a little bit of highlights? I think I saw recently on social that you were at I'm going to call it the pre-event, kickoff, if it were. And I saw great pictures of all of you together in that event. So I'd love to, shout out to those businesses and those others that are in this category, potentially also cross over into the apps that you're building or the nonprofits that you're working with.
Yeah. And the DEI champion nomination, there was Mandis McAllister. She is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator at Resource Analysts. And Warner Norcross and Judd LLP. She was really fantastic, and that was one of the pictures I was with her and Ovel Barbie. He's the Senior Vice President of Human Resources and Chief Diversity Officer at Spectrum Health. I know that he was mentioning that he's moving on from that role, but his service with that company is amazing, and now he's going to be serving us at another company. In the other category of emerging leaders, there was Shaq Anthony. He's a senior talent engagement specialist with Spartan Nash. And then Sylvia Namuhungu, who does work with the Michigan Refugee Community and AmeriCorps and Bethany Christian Services.
I think I may have crossed her path when I was doing some of the work here in town with Literacy Center of West Michigan. So really excited to see you in that category. And I'm whatever we can do with this event and any other publicity that we can give you after this event before really gunning for you.
Yeah, I really want to celebrate all of them. They're fantastic and doing incredible work in our community. Like, they're all already winners.
If you all came together and you had one theme or one that you wanted to impress upon us leaving this event, what would it be? How would you or yourself or they want to say that we should, as individuals, practice equity and inclusion? What is some notes that you could give us?
Yeah, so in a company and outside of the community, I think that one thing would be understanding brave spaces versus safe spaces. Being in a brave space means that, there might be some feelings, there might be something that makes you uncomfortable, but you have to remember that that kind of push helps you grow and can bring better change in your community and at your company. Just remembering that everyone has something to learn, practicing daily equity, diversity, and inclusion, giving yourself grace as you practice that, being really intentional about establishing DEI policies and anti-racism policies at your organization. I have some resources to check out. There's the National Equity Project at nationalequityproject.org. There's dismantlingracism.org. That's a very good resource. And then creativereactionlab.com. That's a really great resource. They have a lot of training that's very affordable for different topics. And
Grace in all of that, right, is just, for me, one of those things that I attach to is just having grace. Grace with each other in a leadership perspective, grace as we're building a company and evolving into a platform, grace as we're growing or looking for customers or platforms in our area to also make this GIS software and the other greater platform that Mallowfields is doing, basically doing it with the mindset of I'm pausing because I want to say doing it with intention, and I'm going to leave it at that, and grace and intention in that way, and just being thoughtful and intelligent when we're speaking to each other, whether it's an employee talking to a leader or a customer talking to a business owner, and having that ability to understand one another. So we're getting at that point, and I want to be cognizant of everyone's time, especially since we did kick off a little bit later than I needed to. Thanks for patience there. Any closing remarks that you want to do? And before I say that, I want to say thank you again to Mallowfields, to you on the phone, and again to the space that we're a partner of here that's helping us grow our chapter, the Grow Hub GR co-working space. Thanks for supporting us here while we're going live and talking to Jess here. Jess, I want to give you the space in those last moments, impart a little bit more wisdom, throw any closing remarks that you might have out. And then if we have any questions in the chat, definitely feel free. This is the great time to either put those there or heads up, you can definitely come off mic and on screen. And we'd love to see if you have any questions for our keynote speaker, Jessa. Jessa, do you want to give your closing remarks or any last asks that you would have of any of your customers potentially for Mallowfields, or anyone that's coming across GIS Jess or using it, or just in general, walking the walk and practicing?
I want to say thank you so much for having me. It's been great having this fireside chat with you all. Let me know if you have any questions for me. I'm open to connecting over LinkedIn. I can share my LinkedIn link and my email in the chat. From Mallowfields, just we're a small company, but we're growing, and we're trying to make a big impact in the Grand Rapids area through software and making just the tech industry more inclusive for women and people of color. Thank you for taking the time to celebrate DEI. It's really important that people recognize this as like a standard and start living up to it.
So with that, I think thanks for those words. Any questions that we have in the community that's out there? Totally willing to take those. Feel free to drop them in the chat. Feel free to come off mic.
I've never heard of a corporate republic before. I didn't know like how that worked. If that was just with the founding members, or if it was like the whole staff, or.
Yeah, we'll continue to grow as we grow, and it means that everyone in the company will have a vote, and that whatever things change in policies or roles or salaries, like it's very transparent, and we can see who voted yes or no. Some things we need like unanimous vote, but yeah, so that allows everyone in our company to have a voice and be able to voice their concerns.
Being intentional. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, when I was first researching companies, I think, is that a fairly new model, or has that been out there and it's maybe not as popularized, I guess?
Yeah, I think that we're kind of paving the trail for that one, but we really want to make it into a reputable model so that other people can use it at their companies.
Always a way to expand our vertical and look for other ways to contribute, right? So that was one of the things I was going to say. Is there a way to have people reach out and ask about the methods and the models that you're using as a CEO to operate your business? And if there's any way to learn from each other, and then potentially grow those ideas, as standards, maybe.
I'm all about, meeting, connecting, and knowledge sharing. I think that is what will keep our community strong as we move into, the future.
And that's a really great segue, because as we're growing this chapter here with Startup Grind, the national and the global chapter worldwide, we're all about the keyword help. Our mission is to be there to help and grow businesses, much like this platform is doing. And I want to say thank you to taking the 45 minutes away from your evening, because I know you're busy. I think we were just on a board meeting last night, so thank you. I really appreciate the time. Let me do some quick other shout outs here. Like I mentioned, the video will be posted on YouTube after this event, so please look out for that. We will also have keynotes and links that have been posted here in chat. So thanks to the participation from our attendees. Great links. I will put those all into the YouTube post and the notes of that channel when it gets posted. So as closing remarks, as with every event, please watch for that video posted on YouTube and its notes. You'll find those links that I just mentioned. And don't forget to check out Startup Grind's website, not only for that DE&I summit that I mentioned is next week. It's a one-day event. But check out our Startup Grind Grand Rapids chapter. We actually have an November event coming up that we hope to have with a small in-person event here again at the Grow Hub GR space. We're calling it November, KNOW Vember event, where we hope to get businesses much like Mallowfields and other businesses that need spotlights and help and growth and networking and attention to show up and have just an informal meet and greet. No real agenda, just getting to know each other so that we can grow Grand Rapids, or put the go and grow, and capitalize that GR and all of the companies that we have here coming into the entrepreneur space. If you haven't, especially if you've recently participated in any of those pitch competitions that we've had here in the Mid-Michigan area and beyond, definitely welcome you to that third Thursday of November event. It's going to be right before Thanksgiving, which I think, again, like this GIS Jess app paired with new businesses that are starting up and needing your support, it just sets us up for a great holiday season and a great 2022. So we definitely want to be here to support you, help you, connect you, grow you, and know you. And don't forget, again, to check out the Art Exchange. I have their pamphlet here. So if you're a Grand Rapids local, I love what they said tonight at their event. United in purpose, art is celebrated for its power to bring about acceptance, foster kindness, and assertive inclusion. And that just seems like a great way to appreciate, again, Mallowfields and your partnership in this event, Jessa for speaking, and all of the attendees that showed up. We really appreciate you and look forward to talking to you in future events.
So much.